In the red from China, he is Oliveira. And his opponent down here in the blue from Korea, he is Beyond.
All right. Halcyon going to be our first map here. And yeah, I'm just kind of excited to see the types of stylish openers that they want to do. You know, are they going to stay like very aggressive? Are we going to see any 2-Rex Reapers here between the two? I do love it when it's 2-Rex Reaper versus 2-Rex Reaper. That can turn into some wild games. You know, obviously there's like these two in particular, like factory openers quite a bit. So it looks like both of them will be going for factories here early on.
Yeah, going to be teching up here. And we'll have to see what kind of positional plays they're going to go for. If there's going to be any moving out on the map. Two extremely active players duking it out here in this best of 5 where everything is really on the line. Oliveira sends the first scout SCV across the map, making a beeline to the south, headed towards Beyond. We're going to wait for the factories to start up, and then it's going to be about what add-ons are made and what they're attached to and what types of units are going to be produced. And that should give us a much clearer idea of what kind of strategies are going to be used here.
Yeah, very oftentimes going to be some Hellions and Reapers coming out. But sometimes you will see that quicker Cyclone. Of course, we see Oliveira here scouting both where the barracks is and where that factory is. And, you know, back at this base, not really seeing any of that quite yet. So, yeah, this is, you know, obviously pretty standard openers so far. And I got to say, Tasteless, this has been like a really wonderful tournament so far. Anything really standing out in your mind?
I mean, are you asking about games or just the whole event itself? I
Both.
was going to say just the stage.
This is an
honestly.
open question to you.
There's no wrong answers in this.
While we wait for the factories to finish and the reactors to finish, I just want to talk with you.
The stage these guys are on is insane.
It's
like the biggest stage I have ever seen, and you know, you and I have kind of seen it all as far as big events for esports. And the fact that this is just one of many major stages down here. Each one that we walked into, I'm like, oh my God, is this the one where we're going to do the finals? We're like, no, there's another one we got to show you after this. So it's been kind of crazy to be down here at the Esports World Cup and to see all these games coming together. I feel like we were all really siloed before this. There was a period where we had esports all in one place, and it became fragmented. And it's nice to be seeing, you know, the whole StarCraft family down here, but it's also people from other games. You know, we just saw the Street Fighter guys when we came in here to start this off. They were heading out. Now the Tekken guys are coming in. We got Call of Duty on the stage just down the block over here. So that's been my big takeaway.
No, absolutely. It does kind of feel like the old days of esports. Kind of keep track of each other a little bit. Now, taking a look at this game, it was a quicker Cyclone here from Beyond. So playing maybe a little bit more defensively for the very early portion of this game. But obviously those Cyclones can turn into some pressure afterwards. Nice Reaper jump up. Those 2 Reapers doing some really solid damage. But 3 jumping up here from Oliveira. And he's going to get a few probes here before, or SCVs here before those Cyclones can clean him up.
Yeah, he's going to drive this back out here. Little tit for tat right now. Looks like Beyond's Reaper should be able to get away. Big cleanup over here for Beyond inside inside Beyond's main. Oliveira getting wiped out over there. And this is the kind of game we were talking about. A lot of activity, a lot of little skirmishes starting things off.
Yeah, and Beyond definitely taking a bit more damage there, but he is going across the map now with a medevac that has a couple of Cyclones in it. So we'll see if he's able to get some damage with that. Oh man, the 2 Hellions come back. The Marines are there, so looks like they won't really overstay their welcome, but I love that Oliveira's looking for that damage once again, and in fact, trying to micro some against these Marines and pick some off.
We've got that drop here with the Cyclones coming in. He's going to target these SCVs. It is going to be driven out by the 6 Marines and 1 Cyclone in that position. You know, it's funny. We've had a lot of kind of never-ending punches coming in. Little jabs on each side. None of them doing anything, I would say, too detrimental. It's more of trades, but kind of in line with what we talked about. It's going to be Raven Tech now here for Oliveira. A tank as well. It's going to be matched by Beyond's tank here on this side of the map. Again, we got to see if anybody is going to be taken to third base. In a moment where they're both going to micro in and out of the medevacs. Nobody losing anything there.
Well, Bjorn here, I bet you he is going to go into those Ravens as well. We'll see in a second here as his Tech Lab finishes up. But, you know, it can be, oh no, he just builds the Tech Lab with that starport and going to go ahead and swap it. In the meantime, yeah, comes out with that medevac with a couple of Cyclones in there, but against the Cyclone Siege tank defense, doesn't want to overcommit.
Okay, you could see a little drop over here with these Cyclones. Once again, going to try to pick away at whatever you can find, take what you can get. It's not going to be much, just a pittance. The Liberator's going to come up here into the main, and it's going to go right behind those workers. He did drag these Cyclones back there. Actually, never mind, he's going to park that. He might bring it in now that these Cyclones are here.
Yeah, drops them out again, but again, just a pittance there.
Yes.
I just want to fit in with you, Taste, so I want you to think I'm cool.
Pittance was my word this cast, okay?
Yeah, well, I want it to be our word, okay? Now, comes out with those Cyclones once again. Getting a few more kills here. Of course, the Ravens helping out quite a bit as well. And really kind of tit for tat, opposite from last time, right? It was 7 kills and 2 kills. This time it's 2 kills and 7 kills. So these guys really showing just how evenly matched they truly are.
It's been a tight game so far. Stim is halfway done on both sides. We do have that third command center about to finish up here for Bjorn. If he can kind of maintain this position. You know, it's kind of hard to deal with this because there's no way to really get rid of that Liberator just yet. The Cyclones are able to roam in, take some shots off. You know, it's funny, some of these SCVs that are damaged now, they can be killed off later when the Cyclone comes back in.
Yeah.
And this should give a little bit more leg room here on the map for Bjorn. He should be able to land that command center much later on.
Yeah, you know, it really looks better for Bjorn right now. If you just take a look, right? Like, his upgrades are much, much quicker than Oliveira's, which can be a gigantic deal in this matchup. Not just that, though. You know, he's up in workers as well. He's up in that army supply. He's been really active with that one medevac with the Cyclones in it. And, like, Oliveira's coming in. He's doing a little bit, right? We just saw a little Marine drop, get a couple of CVs and everything. But just not quite getting as much done as Bjorn is.
Yeah, we got the Ravens coming down now from above. He is going to try to chuck down some auto turrets here, see what kind of kills he can get. Obviously, they're going to take out SCVs very fast. Putting this even here by the tank. I don't think it's going to be enough to take that tank out. Unfortunately, he did not target workers instead, so no value there with all of the energy that was spent dropping that position. A tank comes down now inside Oliveira's main, shelling that one Cyclone. And, you know, it's a double bottleneck position here. It's kind of hard for anything above this to get over here. He's going to actually run through this narrow area of the barracks and hit now. And I got to say, Bjorn is getting a lot of value with this attack. This is a lot of workers being killed. He takes out at least 7 over there.
It's kind of crazy that 6 were killed on the other side by like 3 Marines in a medevac.
Yeah, yeah.
So Oliveira got some counter damage there as well to kind of keep himself in the game. But definitely, each time we see harassment, it does feel like Bjorn's getting a little bit further ahead, don't you think?
It does seem like that. It's a very close race, but he is getting a couple paces further along. That command center is going to land just now for Oliveira, so SCVs will be transferred. Meanwhile, Bjorn's already soaking up the resources at this third base. He's looking pretty good. Oliveira, I think he hasn't lost any tanks yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think he has.
Yeah, I think so. His tank count's going to be quite healthy here. Meanwhile, another tiny drop here from Bjorn. I mean, you just take what you can get. Even getting this turret, I mean, that's going to be something you could take out later on, or move in here with an attack later on. He's so good he lets it burn down, Artosis.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life, Artosis?
Yeah, we don't get experience from last hits here, bro. And then he turns around and kills a Marine as well.
But yeah, Bjorn keeping about this 10 supply lead. Looking very healthy on the map. And, I mean, it's not that Oliveira can't catch up, but, you know, Bjorn kind of playing his own game here. I would say on a scale of all the aggressive kind of micro players, Bjorn is basically at the top, right? And we're kind of seeing that. Even though Oliveira, known for being very good early on and taking control of games, it seems like it's going to be Oliveira on the receiving end here. Bjorn already in the middle of the map. I don't think he's necessarily going to attack in somewhere, although he could, but he might just be sharking around here trying to look at positions and maybe deny a would-be fourth base.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised that we don't have Bjorn, like, roaming a little bit more right now. Like, yeah, sure, he has these Cyclones to the side, and those actually do a fantastic job of trying to catch some medevacs there. But here we go. This is what I want to see, is a little bit of a roam here from Bjorn. right? Because his upgrades, they were a little bit quicker. He should feel pretty confident with the amount of damage that he's done and how much he's deflected, that he can move around the map a little bit, you know? And when you are moving around, your opponent really has to keep good track of that. If you suddenly appear from an angle and Oliveira's not ready for that, he might force like a liftoff on a command center or something like that, and those can be very hard to get back into place.
Yeah, there is a sensor tower that it seems like Beyond is just now outside of. But if he moves quick enough, there might not be defenses over here at this third base. He's going to slide through. He scans to try to see, can he get in here and do this damage? Beyond seems to think he can.
Ooh.
He's going to spread out here. I think Oliveira's tanks are just way too perfectly placed.
Yeah.
In fact, this completely backfires.
Yeah, the disables as well. That's like kind of the funny part, right? Like Oliveira's had these disables for days and has been waiting to utilize those. So as soon as he disables a couple tanks, it's like, yeah, Beyond, you're not going to be able to break in there. So feels like the game gets evened up reasonably well from that defense.
Yeah, good control here from Oliveira. Beyond definitely overextending. Not, I would say, behind in this game, but definitely an attack that was thwarted. The starport's coming along now. And, you know, Beyond has reached up into a further north spot on the map, taking this base just over here. He is basically growing a little bit more quickly. His upgrades a little bit further ahead. We see on the sidebar here, they are about to finish. So Oliveira overall in a game of catch-up, I think there's not much he needs to do other than not get punished. We see a drop coming in here now. Now remember this turret was killed off earlier. This may have been what incentivized this, but this is not going to go well.
No.
Because the majority of these units don't even get out, and the rest of this is just going to get wiped. And you can see the pain in Beyond's face. That was the first, I would say, real blunder of the game. And he is now behind.
Yeah, when you said this isn't going to go well, that's the greatest compliment you could ever give that drop. That's like the kindest anyone's ever. Like you're not doing him any favors by saying that. That was a disaster.
It was garb.
I can't believe that he saw it. And the thing is, you know, a lot of Beyond's wins are off how decisive he is, but that was crazy what we saw him go into. And now Oliveira should be feeling on top of the world. I actually love what we saw him doing right before that as well. He was adding additional command centers. He was adding additional starports. So Oliveira right now really getting ready for that kind of end game, whereas Beyond is like, well, I need to make as many Marines as possible and drop them in someone's main base, which is kind of like, okay, there's a stage for that. You know, there's a stage and a time period for that, in fact.
It wasn't...
And they both have passed.
It wasn't even prompted. It was like, I'm just going here now. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, okay, hold on a second. Oliveira's going to try to break this position. And he basically does. We see Beyond immediately set up just a few spaces back here on the board. But I think he could probably press forward right now. It's 3 tanks to 11 Artosis. And that 11 is here with our Chinese player, Oliveira. And we're about to see it down to 1 tank as he takes those 2 out. And so... all you have to do is start to leapfrog the tanks.
Yeah.
As long as you keep this covered with the Marines and you don't have too many unsieged at any point in time, you're probably going to be okay.
This is a terrible position right now for Beyond. How do you even hold on against this many tanks? Because, you know, 1-2 tanks there, it doesn't matter. You can just move up and siege in range of them and blow them up. So look, he forces a liftoff and, in fact, very likely to kill this orbital. Beyond trying to repair it, but no, can't quite get it in time. Bleeding off extra units. He's technically up in supply right now, but the supply he's up in is mostly Marines and medevacs.
And now he's going to attack down here at 6 o'clock. There's no way to save this. So Beyond's going to lose another one. You know, it's going to come down to Oliveira just maintaining this lead. I mean, there's been some big wins right now. It's once again 11 tanks to 3. This is a bit of a game of a story of hubris, I guess you could say, here with Beyond. Just a little bit too ambitious, kind of had a steady lead, but Beyond has never really exhibits the kind of patience we see from Maru. Yeah. Maru knows when to pull the trigger, and he knows when to basically sit and wait and lie there. Another push in here. A couple tanks are going to be killed off, but the Marines are going to be punished with that splash. And, you know, it's a situation where, like, I think Beyond played his game early on, and, you know, the defining negative side of any aggressive player is that double-edged sword of you overextend, which is what he did here. Yeah. We're seeing drops come into the main. I kind of thought we'd have more pushing up at the top, but I guess the main is a great place to try to push into.
Beyond will go ahead and end up clearing all of that out. And, you know, supply-wise, not that far behind, but he has lost a couple command centers. The game has been in control by Oliveira. I guess the one thing we can say for Byun is he did take that 4th base up in the top leftish area.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Big kills on those Vikings,
there,
actually.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to dismiss a couple Vikings loss, but that is really how you're going to catch drops and punish a lot of stuff. So, unfortunate to see that. 3-3 is about to finish here for Oliveira. We have vehicle weapons, level 2. Finishing up over here for Byun. But Oliveira, I think, is going to basically grow into the upper left corner, which should give him a pretty easy launching pad to hit the base just adjacent to where he's expanding to now.
Yeah. You know, Byun, like, I mean, you can really tell who Byun is just by, like, looking at what we were just looking at right there. It's like, oh, wow, he has, like, 1,000 Marines. Is this a TVZ? No. In the same time, Oliveira's like, I have that many Marines as well, and comes down and just powers down that command center. But, yeah, right now, it's that same type of number you were talking about before, 3 tanks to 10. So even though Byun has, like, a lot more Marines, and you'll see him take out this Marine force, the thing is, there's so many tanks for Oliveira that he can do things like dive in and kill a command center, but Byun can't do that because there's siege tanks that will stop him from doing that.
Right.
So it's like Oliveira is doing what Byun wants to do because he has what Byun won't make.
This is a tough moment, man. For Byun here, he's basically been on his back foot this whole time. He does have some opportunities to try to take some fights here. I don't know where exactly he wants to go. He's got a nice spread through the middle of the map diagonally. No sensor towers here for Byun, by the way. This is another sign of an aggressive player, is they're not using sensor towers because they're the ones attacking in. Speaking of which, we got a big angle coming in here for Byun. He's going to just keep pushing through this spot. Some auto turrets come down. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Has Byun actually managed to break this? No, he has not. The auto turrets and the few Marines were enough to drive that back. Oliveira actually with a shockingly high supply lead now.
Yeah, he's really starting to pull ahead. You know, killing 3 different command centers in the last few minutes here. Keeping all of his alive just by making siege tanks and sieging them. Look at that, 273 Marines lost against 171. And they've lost the same amount of tanks, so like Byun is just not producing as many siege tanks as Oliveira. And that's the key unit in Terran versus Terran, you know? This is like the defining unit for 26 years for the Terran race.
Yeah. A scan comes down here. Oliveira is still biding his time, producing tanks in 2s now to Byun's 1. Basically finishing off every upgrade he needs, kind of ticking every box, so to speak. And we'll probably see Oliveira start to move out on the map and be a little bit more aggressive here. But for now, Byun is making a ring of sensor towers, at least of his own. I guess maybe not, just 1 in the bottom center. And so, yeah, it's still Byun looking for damage, trying to come in somewhere and get something off, but I just don't think he's going to find anything.
Yeah, look at all the sensor tower rings that Oliveira has. Look at all the missile turrets he has spread out in there. And you're trying to fly a medevac in. It's just like, no, man, he's literally got radar to watch for that. See his Marines kind of getting frozen there. But yeah, Byun right now, okay, well, trying to shove his Marines through that little choke there, not working out.
That very splash damage friendly narrow area. Tanks are going to come down here. Seems like tension's starting to build just around this watchtower here in the center.
You know, Byun still has a chance in this game, just to be clear, because, like, looking at the game, there's no question Oliveira is outplaying Byun and has been for a bit. But if Oliveira screws up and loses an army, the tempo swing could go to Byun so quickly that he clears out a huge part of the map and can win the game. But if Oliveira is kind of methodical about this, I can't see that occurring.
Can I point out that Byun is not taking gases at his expansions here?
You're not allowed to point that out.
That is, that's against the gas rules. So he's just...
Marines don't cost gas, tasteless.
Yeah. This is what concerns me, because you can see he's trying to crash into these areas with just Marines. I can't believe he's going through here. That's wild. He gets about halfway through. But yeah, he's not getting the gas he needs. In fact, his gas is just at, 100? So it's the same thing that happened earlier in this tournament, where, like, he looks good, but he's not getting the resources to make the stuff he needs. Those gases are just sitting unused for the time being. And this is going to allow the force of Marines to come through, the tanks to leapfrog, the auto turrets to be cast, and he's going to be, I think, tapping out. GG.
Yeah. So Oliveira is going to go ahead and take that. So I would say, like, I mean, just watching these two play against each other, you know, here's the thing. I've actually really liked Byung's play this year. I think he's been in good shape overall.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed a lot of his series. But, like, there's some fundamental things about him. If you're not a complete player, a player like a Maru or a Serral, where you're like, well, they just do everything really well, right? Like, everything. If you're not like them, then the thing I always like to mention is, like, your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. And for Byun, his attacking style is also where he loses his games, you know? Where it's like, oh, he's overcommitting, he doesn't have the right siege tank count. Oliveira just, it feels like he's got that kind of aggressive early game that Byun has, but he also has the transitions. We actually see him continue to make the siege tanks. We see him adding the command centers, adding the starports, whereas Byun is just go, go, go on the Marines.
Yeah. You know, Byun, it's weird. You know, I think I cast this earlier GSL this year, but just seeing him not have the right number of refineries is crazy. So we're watching these fights, but just notice that there's more tanks in the fight for Oliveira. There's more Marines, or there were more Marines there for Byun. It's like he's going down an avenue of incomplete. Yeah, this was really bad here.
Yeah.
We're doing this in slow motion, apparently.
Had to slow it down to just show how bad it is. That was 40 supply that killed like a turret. Yeah, we're seeing like so many attacks from Byun that don't really make sense. Boosting over all the anti-air, attacking up a ramp into Siege Tank Marine.
It's hard to watch, man. Game 2 is here now. In the upper left, in the red, he is Oliveira. And his opponent down here in the bottom right, in the blue, it is Byun.
You know, Estrella in an interview earlier mentioned that Byun has the most games on the NA server, okay? I don't want to be mean, but, like, you have to be careful who you're practicing against and what information you take from that. Mm-hmm. So if you're playing people a lot weaker, a lot of these moves that Byun is doing will just win the game, right? That's not good information for you. That is not good practice for you unless you can identify, be like, oh, yeah, okay, I just won with this, but I don't think this actually works against championship-level players.
That's right.
Because you're seeing him make these moves, and it's like, yeah, well, I mean, just mechanically, he's so good. He'll wipe the floor with 99% of Grandmasters, but when he's playing the people in this tournament, those moves are not going to cut it.
Yeah. You know, it's a funny thing. It's it sounds weird, right? You're at the top of the ladder, right? You'd be like, well, there's nothing better than the top of the ladder. Well, actually, at Pro StarCraft, there is. There's a little layer above that you never see it. It's the few players you've got now practicing for each other.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Yeah, if Byun has been just grinding on the ladder, he may not be coming into this equipped with the right tools to take on somebody who is just going to have the mental calculus of somebody like Oliveira.
Yeah. It's kind of insane, actually. Like, a lot of people don't realize that how big the skill differentiation gets in StarCraft, where, for instance, the difference between people in Platinum and people in Masters is probably like a similar gap as like low GM to Pro. It's just like, yeah, no, they're forever away. It's so crazy how much better the pros are than just like the standard random GM player. So, yeah, it feels like he's doing moves that work against lesser players and just won't work here. And the thing is, I don't expect him to just always be doing that, but we definitely saw that against Oliveira, like 3-4 moves that, of course, weren't going to work.
Right. So this game, we've got a proxied barracks over here. So Byun trying something a little bit more aggressive. A pretty sealed off Oliveira here. I mean, this is so typical now in the meta for TVT that we're seeing these become less effective. It's almost like you assume you're not going to win the game or do anything devastating with this, but you're at least keeping them honest. I do like the push up into the main here, you know, this kind of not trying to take advantage of the Reaper jump ability. And, you know, I said that these might not, or they generally don't do that much. This could be an exception here because he has gotten in here. He's going to try to fight the Cyclone. Now, the Cyclone will clean this up, so maybe beyond overextending there. I think it's almost better to get the kills and get out. If you see a factory making, it actually doesn't matter what comes out of it. That will kill your Reapers.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But with 2-Rax Reaper, like I do like being kind of divey, you know, because the Reapers aren't going to trade well after a bit. They just scale so poorly. So, like, for instance, that particular one, he got, you know, he was up like 5 SCVs after it, so I'm kind of on board. You know, he can make the arc at the bottom of the ramp, which will slow down, like, the landing, but he might not kill very much when they come down, right? So, yeah, I think there's some nuance to exactly when and how to try to trade these units out. But I would say, looking at this game right now, a pretty even position so far. We're going to have to see what the tech from Oliveira ends up doing here. Is his Banshee Cyclone going to be able to make something happen against the more bio-heavy with Medevac opener here from Beyond?
So Beyond going to send that barracks back. It's going to land, make that add-on here. Homebound right now. And things are probably going to be a little bit slower for the time being. Oliveira's going to have a Banshee that comes out and try to harass. I think a lot of the last game we had, a lot of the little back and forths, probably nothing too monumental is going to occur. Oliveira here, he's got 2 Cyclones. Those could be used to defend. There is a drop inbound right now from Beyond. It's important when you watch these drops, if they are completely and totally and utterly shut down, it's actually a pretty big deal. But sometimes they get away and they get a lot of damage.
For sure. Now, Oliveira going across the map with that Banshee. Coming back up here to intercept, and will intercept, dealing a ridiculous amount of damage. Very close to killing that Medevac.
I thought it was actually going to be in range and get shot down with that final.
It almost looked like it, yeah.
Missile coming out.
In the meantime, Oliveira is getting up into those disables for the Ravens. And, yeah, Beyond just making a little bit of anti-air right now to help him deal with this Banshee.
All right, Banshee beginning to shave down the numbers over here. This is the kind of damage that he was really looking for here. Now, there's no cloak, so the Viking will clean that up. He gets about 2 SCVs. Meanwhile, Oliveira's side of the map, he's going to go for Ravens, getting upgrades for them as well. Stim just now starts here for Beyond. Meanwhile, Oliveira is inbound. He's moving across the map. And, you know, he might end up colliding right in with these Cyclones, or they could even pass each other. Okay. Yep, Beyond's moving out.
Ooh, ships passing in the night, perhaps. Oliveira coming down with this attack. His attack definitely looks a little bit stronger, but there is some defense at home here for Beyond. So let's see if that's going to be enough to hold this off. I think we're going to see a very quick disable. Yeah, disable goes off on the tank, and he's going to move up and be able to snipe that tank before it gets undisabled. No, I guess not.
Yeah, the tank for Beyond is just out of range, actually.
Yeah.
So he can't do anything. This is really bad. Now, the attacks that come in from behind, no doubt Beyond was, Oliveira was not ready for that. But look, man, 9 SCVs killed, that's all you need to do.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That ended up being completely fine.
I wonder if the SCVs should have been pulled at all there at first. He might have wanted to keep them back and just run up the ramp. There's going to be a counterattack here. We do have 3 command centers. Obviously, this one has to lift. You can't do anything with it. You can't expand for the time being. Maybe lift it and make an orbital. Though he's going to start an orbital. Let's hope he can finish this before this push gets here.
Well, the push is coming right now from Beyond. Bring these units up. Yeah, I think the orbital will be all right. He's sitting right now, Oliveira, very defensively back at home. Has that tank sieged. Has the Raven. A couple Vikings up here as well, so should have and maintain air control. A defensive siege tank in that main base also. Playing a really defensive stance, and I like it. You know, he's got a little bit of an edge after killing all those SCVs, but of course traded some army for that, so has to play this carefully.
Okay, Viking got to come through the top here. He's not going to find anything. No drops, nothing like that. And it's going to be another one of these moments where Beyond's going to be looking for a fight. He's got the medevacs loaded up. The question when you're this low on base is there an opening? You know, the more spread out you are, the more opportunities there can be. But he's going to be moving on the map. Now, the observer's showing us that there's kind of a landing zone here inside the main that's going to be pretty enticing. Oliveira scans it, doesn't see anything. I don't think that necessarily gives away that there's a drop inbound. But, you know, when you're against Beyond, you might be able to assume this is coming. We'll see how much damage it actually gets off. There's also some Cyclones here in the front to basically try to, you know, draw the screen away.
Yeah, and I think that, that does kind of work. He flew his air units down. But there's so little there. Maybe he'll... Oh, no, he's still got them in kind of a defensive stance.
You know what? This might not work for Beyond. It seems like the 2 tanks in the back are just in a good enough spot. Oh,
dude, he knows what Beyond's planning.
Where is it?
why are there so few units there? If Bjorn boosts in that direction, man, he's going to be in some trouble. Is he just waiting for the 1-1?
Oh,
my God.
No, and he's actually responding so late. Oh, I just felt it.
Yeah.
You could see him
Yeah.
feel the loss of the drops.
Well, he's playing pretty predictably, I guess, right? Like, Oliveira scanned the front. He's like, something's wrong here. Why are you poking me with, like, 3 injured units? And so he just flies up and catches the dropships as Bjorn wants to go in. Bjorn is like, he's setting traps, but it's like the really basic ones, you know what I mean? I don't want to be mean about Bjorn's play, but like it really feels like Oliveira is outdoing him here.
The Marines are going to come stim in, and I don't think that Bjorn could do a whole lot about this. I mean, he's already lost a lot. He's actually taken a lot of damage. There's so many tanks right now. Medevacs are being shot down here as well. He's going to stim in. He's going to be able to disable that tank, which allows him to fight the infantry. The SCVs are going to be pulled. This is all going down. I don't think there's any way that Bjorn can recover. He might need to tap out.
Pretty bad situation for him. He does lose 11 workers, but that actually brings them pretty close to even, surprisingly. Picking off a lot of these siege tanks, I think, is almost even more important. Bjorn going to continue to try to keep his economy going. Another command center immediately gets started for Oliveira. And you know what? Bjorn is ahead on those 2-2 upgrades. So there are a few things in Bjorn's favor here.
Okay, he's even going to be able to hit this tank over here. The Marines are going to come forward. I think this might be a little bit too ambitious from Oliveira. He might be able to get some kills anyways. Reinforcements inbound. You know, sometimes you see these pushes where they each have like 1 or 2 tanks and like 5 to 10 Marines, and sometimes those can really decide battles, right? If somebody miscontrols even a little bit. In this case, Oliveira is going to go right by the scan.
Yeah, he's going to fly around. No turrets in the main base for Bjorn, though. Whereas Oliveira had his minutes ago. So this is going to do a lot better for Oliveira than these other attempts for Bjorn have done.
Yeah, he's just taking out so many workers here. The Marines are going to come in. The numbers are a little bit low. But in the end, it is going to be Bjorn driving this out. Yeah, it's Oliveira ahead in every metric for the time being.
That 33 SCVs lost to 6.
Yeah.
Huge, huge difference.
4th command center finishing right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, Bjorn is going to get ahead on these Marine upgrades for a little bit, though, right? He's going to be at 2-2, and it's about halfway there for Oliveira. So maybe there's something that he can do. Maybe he can get out on the map, roam around a little bit. Obviously, if they have a Marine versus Marine fight, that's going to bode very well for Bjorn. Loads up 4 medevacs once again. This is just the magic number between these two.
Nice spot here from Oliveira. He sees the drops. Meanwhile, Liberator's going to come in here. Good evacuate here from Bjorn, only losing 2 SCVs. Some Marine's going to come in here to try to defend. He has to come in at the correct angle here. This is just not going to work. In fact, these Liberators are going to trade out, even though they're not being moved away, kind of nicely. I think he'll take those kills.
Yeah, some medevacs being lifted here. And, oh, is he just going to send his down the side as well? Bjorn actually unloads back at his own base with those medevacs. So going to join his entire army together. He is down a little bit in Army Spy, a little bit in the SCVs as well. Still has a slight upgrade advantage, but that's just about to go away. Oliveira going to nail this 2-2 timing with the drop.
Okay, here we go. Big drop up here, and Bjorn's right in the middle of the map. So a lot of important stuff is going to be picked off over here. He's going to go for that armory there, taking out the eBay. There's not enough Marines either. He could even get another eBay. This is going to send Bjorn back into the Stone Age.
Really painful. That's one of the big places Bjorn was ahead in this game. And now he loses those upgrades. 3-3, definitely going to be finishing for Oliveira. Way ahead of Bjorn. But Bjorn is taking a 4th. It's a little bit later than Oliveira's. And Oliveira going to drop out here and attack it as well. But yeah, not able to get that. Bjorn quickly pushes him away.
You know, it's kind of crazy. There's been a lot of painful moments for Bjorn this game. We've had a lot of shots of Bjorn just... you know, with faces of disgust. Now, a scan comes down here from Oliveira. He's trying to figure out, okay, is Bjorn going to try to move somewhere? Tanks sieged up generally means no, especially when you see Marines around them. It means he's not dropping anywhere. Now, Oliveira's almost maxed out. He may try to take out one of these bases, possibly this one over here at 3 o'clock. Depends on where Bjorn's Marines are as to whether or not he can try to hold it off.
Yeah, I think he has a fair amount down near those siege tanks, so he might be able to hold on here. That is a very damaged orbital, though, so he's got to be careful if he tries to lift that off. A lot of Vikings there as well. And, oh my gosh, Oliveira starting to just bash through everything, but the siege tanks in the back doing huge, huge work against him. Oliveira hitting that, and look at that, the lift off against the Marines and the Vikings will turn into a dead orbital in a matter of seconds here. Bjorn taking more and more damage.
Yeah, we've got that little strike force on the map here for Bjorn, but it's not really doing anything. And so he's headed back home. It seems like Oliveira is just going to try to double down on the position he's already earned. He's going to run right over here into this area where he was taking out the eBays and armories before, and basically set up a super annoying position that's just going to be a headache for Bjorn to deal with. A lot more SCVs are at risk of being killed off. Some of these Marines here for Bjorn are in range of the tanks. The Vikings can, of course, hit these medevacs.
Yeah.
Bjorn maybe having the worst game of the tournament so far for himself.
Yeah, I would say that this was a little bit rough for him, and GG is called. Oliveira going to go up 2-0 right now against Bjorn. Yeah, it feels like he's a couple steps behind strategically, if that makes sense.
Well, it seems almost like he's not playing versus the player. It's like he's going into a super fast build order.
Yeah.
And he's reacting to things that don't need to be reacted to. We're seeing drops in locations that just don't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it really feels like the way he's playing is as if he's much better than Oliveira. When you're much better than someone, you can just do things quickly and they die.
He's trying to outrun him, but actually Oliveira's got quite a bit of stamina. He's able to keep up. That moment where he sent the injured Cyclones up to the front.
Yeah.
Try to do what I call the old Timmy 2 screens. You bring your screen down here, but actually my attack's going to be somewhere else. This is it right here. So the moment that he even showed the Cyclones there, he's like, oh, you're trying to trick me.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, oh no, I'm going to lose the drop. I love, by the way, that Oliveira tried to spread the missiles so he would get both of those medevacs. And while I don't think that lost in the game, it made the rest of this easier. We have Oliveira coming down here now, and he does a great job of killing off these workers. Probably a little bit caught off guard by the attack north of the screenshot. See the 2 tanks coming in here.
Yep.
But even then, he manages to clear out those tanks. And then there was another moment later on. I don't know if we're going to catch it on camera here, but yeah, Bjorn just sort of like attacked it again, and it didn't have to happen. This was absolutely the fatal damage because this gave Bjorn no viability in the late game. Losing all the upgrades, yikes. Yeah.
That's a little bit rough there for Bjorn. He's down 0-2. Gonna have to fight back. We're gonna go to Golden Aura for map number 3 here. And I'm hoping Bjorn can start to bring this back a little bit, but we're gonna have to see a better mid-game out of him.
Okay. Game 3 is here now. In the bottom right, up 2-0 from China. He is Oliveira. And in the top left, in the blue, the most aggro player in all of Korea. He is Bjorn.
Okay. Man. I am hoping that Bjorn doesn't just like exit here 0-3 against Oliveira. That would be really rough if you went like 2-3 against him. It's like, okay, this is a pretty good series. And then you play him again, and he just knocks you out like 3-0. It's like, oh man, I got worse against me, you got better against me. What's going on here, right?
Yeah.
And then you only have that one crazy knockout bracket at the end. So I'm hoping he can at least put up a nice fight here, even if he ends up losing the series. Still, it does seem like that's the way it's going. Oliveira's just putting out some really high-quality games. Speaking of which, the double barracks play here for 2-Rax Reaper for Oliveira, but he did not proxy one like we saw from Bjorn previously.
And this is kind of cool to see. I thought every game, even though these guys both can be aggressive, maybe Bjorn would always be the one that would be kind of pushing the envelope here. But Bjorn right now going for a very middle-of-the-road build. We don't have a whole read on it yet, but the double Rax Reaper here is kind of cool from Oliveira. I think that one unique feature of Bjorn that I see more in him than anybody else is it's almost like he's not playing the other player.
Yes.
Good and bad. Does that make sense? There are moments where
and he's not playing the map.
Yes, but I think even more so not playing the player, not even playing like in the game that he's in. Like some of those drops he's trying to set up It's like, remember there's this one game, I think it was game 1, he just like sent a medevac through the map full of sensor towers, and there's just turrets there, and it's like, what are you going to do with that? You might need those Marines in medevac. I mean, it doesn't seem like you have a plan necessarily with what you're doing. Sometimes Bjorn is just fast. And StarCraft is in many ways a game of speed. Okay, we all know that there's actually a certain amount of speed you have to even be viable. It doesn't matter how much you know or how quickly you can think. If you can't turn that into actions per minute, it doesn't really matter. But there are periods where it's almost like Bjorn is such a speed freak that he is actually running into booby traps and setting off alarms and actually taking the advantage that he's built up. And, he's very, very good at getting positional setups and kind of pulling the trigger a little bit too soon, where maybe it's better to actually stay with the Cyclones outside the natural and the medevacs and just wait. Don't do anything just yet. Maybe an opportunity is going to happen later on, because at some point in time, players are good enough, like Oliveira, that he's just kind of covering everything neatly. Yeah.
It's an interesting way to look at it. Oliveira, by the way, here, trying to micro a little bit, but Bjorn seems to be fine here, right? Like, he's got the Hellions, he's got the Reapers himself, so he will be able to parry this. But yeah, back to what you were saying here, right? So something about, 4 Reapers for 2 SCVs, so Bjorn really coming out on top in these build orders. Not Oliveira, not really, he's not like known for Reapers like Bjorn is. But yeah, Bjorn is a little bit of an enigma as far as his play goes. It's like, what is that Forrest Gump quote? Like, Bjorn is...
Life is like a box of chocolates.
As Bjorn does.
You never know what build order you're going to get.
No, not with Bjorn, though. Bjorn is like a candy bar. You know exactly what's in the wrapper. But, well, hold on. He's coming in with some Hellions. I really actually want to dive deeper into that, but they're attacking each other nonstop. And the Cyclones will push that back a little bit. But there's like funny things about Bjorn, because like if you think of like the 4 Horsemen of Terran that we had at kind of like the prime of
2015-ish,
a little bit later than that, but like the innovation beyond Maru TY, when they were just by far the 4 best Terrans in the world.
Yeah.
Right. Like for instance, in that group, Bjorn is simultaneously the least accomplished, but the only one with a world championship. Like he has very high highs and very low lows.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and I think part of that is he does just play how he plays, and sometimes the meta favors very aggressive plays, and sometimes it does not. Right. So, I don't know. He's such a fun player to watch, though.
Yeah. It's a situation where I think if he's given the right tools ahead of everybody, he could actually just kill off so much. By the way, Banshee shot down here. But I think the more cemented the game is and the more people kind of get when you can attack and where, I think occasionally we see him, it's almost like he's going on the fastest speed on the treadmill and falls off. By the way, both these guys, it's been a couple of flubbed attacks. I know we've been talking mostly big ideas here, but we're just sort of seeing stuff get shot down. It's... Sorry, I'm told me to laugh at this. We have so many... Bjorn really emotes, I think... a more painful face.
Yeah.
It's not like, man, it's like, it looks like it hurts. It's a soul-crushing face.
Well, I can tell you as a Terran player, it does hurt Tasteless.
Yeah.
You're linked to every single unit you have, and every mistake you make, you get further from victory, and it's painful. Bjorn running in here now with some Hellions, going to go ahead, harass these SCVs a little bit, and some reasonable damage right there. Oliveira quite down in workers at the moment. And look at this. Oliveira's attack's just not really doing it right now. Look at Bjorn just parry everything.
Yeah, I think we saw Oliveira try to walk a mile in Bjorn's shoes, and you're kind of seeing why. Most Terrans can't be this aggressive.
Yeah.
Like, Oliveira's having a way less successful time overall here.
Well, you look at the 2 best TVT players of all time in, like, Maru and TY, for instance, and they play, like, a slightly more, like, obviously all sorts of stuff gets mixed in, but a slightly more defensive style with some units out in the map doing things. You know? Whereas, like, here you see Oliveira, and he's like, here's my whole army coming up here. And while his whole army moves into position, Hellions run in, kill his SCVs, and then his army gets held by 2 siege tanks. It's like, well, I mean, we didn't really gain anything. We only lost things there.
Oliveira outside the natural. Now, he doesn't have to try to push in. He might. He's going to peek in here with the Vikings. I don't know if he saw the third tank back there.
I feel like the way he was flying in there, he's like, can I land here? Like, is there a way? Is there something I can do? I think he just knows he's a bit behind and he wants to try to do something. In fact, yeah, he was getting a little cheeky there. He had the 2 tanks in the medevac. Bjorn came out and kind of forced him to unload. See, he's trying to maneuver. He's trying to find an angle.
It's back and forth. Even the one Marine stim to try to snipe that.
Yeah.
Both these guys so good with their control. And Oliveira just backs out. Not going to attack it too far here. He's halfway through 1-1 as actually, looks like Bjorn's a little bit further along. So there is a timing window. I don't know that Bjorn will take that or not. Bjorn is setting a double medevac drop across the map. It's being boosted. And, when you see players sharking around the middle of the map, especially on 2 base, you can get a lot of damage.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of damage off in drops like this.
Yeah, and this is actually, like, for instance, the way that Bjorn is playing this with 2 medevacs while sitting turtled, this is exactly how TY would play TVT, right?
Right.
Where you're like, okay, we're gonna try for damage, but, like, let's say we lose these, the game isn't necessarily over. And let's say we get counterattacked, the game is definitely not over, right? So, he's actually playing in my opinion, a much better TVT this game, just on the way that he's playing a bit more defensively, while still trying to get damage. Look at this. His third base going to come up. He's very, very safe. His 1-1 is done. His armory's almost done here to get 2-2 started. Things are looking good for Bjorn this game. This is what we need to see. These other games, we see him suiciding in, attacking nonstop, losing units left and right. And here he's playing the more defensive, little bit more reactive game. And I think that TVT is a very, very strategic, very tactical, position-based game where this type of play is going to be rewarded more often.
I agree. We've got a flank coming in here. Tanks are sieging up. Here comes Oliveira from the bottom as well. And, this looks really bad for Oliveira here. These tanks are just basically going untouched for the most part. Now, the Liberators come up here and drive this position back. It's one of the few saving graces of what Oliveira had. 3 base versus 3 base tensions are high. Trading happening quite a bit. Both of these guys, even on workers, it looks like there's a minor lead here for Oliveira on army supply, but a lot of times it's really more the composition than the numbers themselves.
So what we just saw on that production tab, and this would probably be the way that Oliveira would come back in a game like this. Okay, so look at what we have being made right now. Right, 3 barracks for Bjorn are being added, and what do we have being added here for Oliveira? It's a factory. Okay. So, you see the different mindsets here. And you also see in the production tab, we have Vikings and Siege Tanks as the primary units that Oliveira is not missing a beat on. For Bjorn, we have Medevacs and Siege Tanks. Okay, 2 very different approaches. One is a more long-term, value-based approach from Oliveira. The other one is a more aggressive, in-your-face, I want to win this game approach from Bjorn. So even though so far up to this moment, I feel like he has outplayed Oliveira with a defensive style, right now we see him making the choices to continue down the early into early mid-game avenue of lots of Marines, Medevacs, Siege Tanks, whereas Oliveira is saying, I'm going to have air control, I'm going to have more Siege Tanks, which is what wins you a long game.
I like that analysis there.
That's right. I'm going to hang up my headset and leave.
Yeah, I am done.
Because we already know how this is going to go. Well, no, obviously right at this second it can go absolutely any which way, but they're definitely showing what they want to do going forward.
All right, tank sieging up here on the outside. And I don't know if Bjorn's going to be able to get in here and do that much. He's definitely denying a base over here at 3 o'clock, but there's actually a base being taken just at 6. Oliveira kind of just going wherever Bjorn is not. Expanding, playing keep away, not having to engage this directly. Bjorn, with that supply lead, he's kind of looking for a fight that maybe he can take. I don't know if Oliveira is going to give him that.
Right now, Oliveira is sitting very turtled up, which I think is absolutely a key thing for him to be doing right now. When you're spending all this money on, for instance, air units like he is, it's going to take a little bit for you to grind, right? Once you have enough Vikings, then you add the Liberators, and that's what he's doing right now. And then you can just push your opponent's Siege Tanks. Because if you keep your Siege Tanks near enough your Liberators, Marines can't snipe them. And if you have more Vikings, Vikings can't snipe them. So it's just like a very methodical approach that's very strong. See? Bjorn was like, I'm going to hit those. No, you're not. You're not going to hit those.
Okay, he's going to try to inch in with these Liberators.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is that like this little back and forth is kind of fun to watch, but it's actually not going to help Bjorn at all. Like, Oliveira is happy to have this tap dance go on over here with the Liberators and the tanks and the Marines all day because he can keep growing into the bottom. Basically, Bjorn is threatening a part of the map that doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And you know what's funny is usually Bjorn would have 2 medevacs with Marines in it at the bottom.
Yep.
You basically, if you're going to do control play, especially in this kind of a TVT, you need to have, like, maybe a Liberator somewhere to run and, like, try to hit SCVs at a medevac or 2 or 3 or 4 even, with infantry and tanks to threaten somewhere else, and then some ground push. But we only have one part of that picture, and so I don't know. I feel like Oliveira's basically, you know, growing on the map unimpeded.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's playing a very careful defensive game, and Bjorn is walking around with basically one group instead of a couple like you suggest there. He also does notice, like, after those Liberators kind of screwed him up there, he added like 2 or 3 starports. So he is going to start switching it up and entering towards a late game composition as opposed to that early mid-game composition he was on before. You can see that reflected in 4 command centers. Now right. 2 Ravens and 2 Vikings at the same time and disable. Like, Bjorn is now saying, okay, I get it. I'm not going to break you. Let's go into the late game. But Oliveira did go first, so if he identifies that's what Bjorn is doing, he can double down. Like, look at this, Fusion Core on the way. Adding more missile turrets. These are types of things that you want to do right now while you still have that advantage.
Okay, Bjorn going to seal off this area over here to the bottom left. Vikings actually going to nip at that medevac. Looks like they won't quite get it. And at the very, very center right, we're going to have, I assume, a big drop. So this is kind of the setup I was talking about before. If you're going to have map control, you need to look for stuff like that. God, Oliveira is so good. He scans immediately. He already had Vikings and turrets anyways. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Oliveira has just continued to grow. Now, Bjorn is banked up a pretty crazy amount. He's at 2.2K minerals, 1.5K gas. So, assuming Bjorn can trade evenly, he will be able to replenish supply extremely quickly.
Wow.
That's not it.
Well, it's not it, but simultaneously, he needs to get rid of that Marine supply. Like, if you realize that your opponent is adding as many starports as Bjorn is, you actually do want to bleed off some Marines. Like, you still do need some just for their mobility and anti-air capabilities, but, like, you need to get heavier into Ravens, into Vikings, not necessarily siege tanks, because eventually you get into this funny thing where it's like, okay, you hit the critical mass of siege tanks that you're not dying to ground units, and now it's about having enough Vikings so that the Liberators can't push you, right? And who knows, some people even like to go BCs in the very, very late game. I don't know if we're going to see that from either of these guys.
Yeah, I feel like we might not, but who knows? We could have it.
It's a possibility. Sometimes you see them.
And so it's been a much slower TVT than the other games we've had. Beyond with the insane surplus in resources, is now like throwing down in some spots double command center, probably 1 to be an orbital, 1 to be a planetary, or even 2 to be a planetary.
Yeah. If you're afraid of any sort of bio coming in, the planetaries can be fantastic. I love mass orbital too, because then you can send away SCVs to die,
right,
and utilize mules, and obviously you can scan more. Yeah, it's just like this is. I actually really, really like late game TVT. It's just so cool when this happens, where it's like, we can't kill each other. How do we most abuse this?
We'll be here forever.
Yeah. The best StarCraft games are forever. That's why I loved Swarm hosts, and I miss them.
The golden era of StarCraft 2 is over. Well, Bjorn, just keeping his position here. The 3 o'clock spot is a location that eventually Oliveira has to go to. Oliveira's basically buttoned up his position pretty tightly, but, you know, beyond having that lead, he's going to be able. He's expanding to both the top and the top right without any threats.
Hey, it is going to be battlecruisers here for Oliveira. So, yeah, battlecruisers obviously with teleportation plus Yamato, it's like those are great late game units. You know, between disable and having more Vikings, that can be a very good way to fight against them.
Right.
But this is going to be just an amazing game. The one thing I have to mention, like I'm excited by the BCs coming from Oliveira, but I do feel like since Bjorn has identified that he absolutely can't kill him and has to go late game, he has added so many command centers and starports. Can we actually check the structures tab? Okay, so right now 4 command centers as well as 10 orbitals. So he's going up to like 15-ish orbitals right now. And on the other side, yeah, it's much less. It's more like 10 command centers total, right? Of various things, some planetaries in there and everything. And as far as starports go, 7 against 5. So Byun is actually getting better late game, right?
Yeah.
Orbital count and starport count are very important late game.
He does take out that the command center there. He's going to drop on this tank. I got to say, this is getting a lot more damage done than I thought. It is kind of an empty, vacant spot at the top right. He really doesn't have anything over there. Finally, the 3 o'clock base is going to be taken here. Byun starts to mop up the mess that was created up there. You're right, Artosis, as far as infrastructure, late game, end game, probably is a better way to put it. Byun is kind of ticking all the boxes here. Oliveira is also maxed out. We're going to see Byun try to break through this position. I don't see anything but tanks that can't attack right now.
Yeah, I do think you need like a few more turrets here as Oliveira. You want to make it so that something like that is more costly, and you need to make sure that your Vikings and your Ravens come in very, very quickly to counteract that. You want to make sure you have sensor towers to see that coming as quickly as possible. I love this type of position, Tasis. I'm giddy right now. I'm having a great time.
We're getting into that kind of crazy late game TVT where we're going to run out of map, we're going to run out of resources. It's going to be about, the craziest end game comps you could get. Again, another big denial here. I got to say, Byun has had the map the whole time. He's certainly acting like he can't be attacked on the whole map. He's lost both the top right, he's lost the bottom left.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, getting those up, getting defenses, getting SCVs over there, tanks, sensor towers, all of it is so important. And now we've got Oliveira actually out-expanding him, which is crazy to say.
Yeah. Definitely something that Byun is going to want to react to. But I think overall, like, the game is looking really cool. It's kind of funny how slow their air attack upgrades are here. Like, Oliveira doesn't have an air attack upgrade.
Yeah.
Which is, like, really funny because obviously that's very important. But we'll probably see him hit +3. The odds of either of these guys dying in the next 10 minutes is very low in my view.
No, I think we're going to go to a super long game here.
I think it's a very good chance the map will be mined out, except for possibly the corners, which they will maybe be blowing up over and over.
Right.
But, yeah, like... They're both approaching this in a very smart way. Now, you see these 2 factories being added by Byun. I actually think there's a decent chance he'll add in just a few Thors to maybe try to get good volleys against the Vikings. If you get a couple good volleys, you can just maybe roll over their Vikings at that point, right? It could be for siege tanks. I don't know exactly what his siege tank count is right now, but I don't think so. I don't think he's really lost any. So, yeah, 11-ish I think is fine right now.
Okay. A big push here from Byun. I mean, air dominance is insane. Whenever you get maxed out like this, it's kind of a balancing act of what unit counters what, how much of that can you have, can you get the secondary unit so that if you win that fight, you can then try to stay on top. You take out the key unit that might stop, let's say, a tank from moving forward. So you need to have a couple of those tanks when you defeat them to get into the position that you want to be in.
And he actually is adding those tanks, by the way. So
yeah.
Maybe he wants like a wider spread. Maybe he thinks he needs some at like the corners or something.
Oh, there's a little bit of a log jam over here at the command centers. And that's a lot of tanks. That was about 5 tanks we saw stuck there. I think 4 initially and then a 5th one coming down, which means Byun is actually going to have less tanks in the map. Meanwhile, Byun is trying to move through this area here in the center. Now, he might just want to free up Marines as well. That could be part of the story here.
This is a great move, though. Like, it would actually probably be good for him to lose these Marines, you're right.
Yeah.
But it's also really good to get damage. If you can trade units like this for damage at this point in the game, you're super, super happy. Look at this. He's queuing up. Are those his turrets queued up? They are. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, he's going to try to seal him off over here. SCV's coming out. So if you're new to StarCraft, I know we got people watching from different games here at the Esports World Cup. You're capped on the amount of units you can make. So when you see this many, with both sides maxed out, sometimes you go, oh, I don't actually want workers. Oh, I don't want Marines. I want to make something more technical for the later game. And so you see players kind of chuck them out. You could try to get something done or not with them, depending. And in this case, it's going to be Byun shaving off quite a bit He does still have 71 workers to Oliveira's 59, interestingly. I would have thought it would have been the reverse of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that funny?
He probably should trade out. Like, he's got so many orbitals at this point. I would love to see him throw away 20, 30 SCPs.
Call them Orbals.
Orbals. It's like Orbeez. You know how like every person on YouTube has filled a bathtub with Orbeez or whatever, or swimming pool? Well, that's what Bjorn has done with his Orbeez.
Yes,
he's filled the whole map with Orbeez.
With Orbals. Again, the map, diagonally cut in half here. Air Tech going hard right now for Bjorn. By the way, the bank, the pockets are getting deep here. Over 5K and 4K minerals gas here for Bjorn. Now entering 3K and 6K here for Oliveira. So Oliveira actually shockingly with a higher amount of gas, which could play a major role in the tech switches.
Oh, yeah, that could. More starports going up for Bjorn, though. That production going to be really, really important. A lot of Raven spells being cast. 17 Ravens to 16. 21 Vikings to 19. Dude, this is just like... My entire gut tells me Bjorn is playing this a bit better. And I guess he is closer to Oliveira's base. But that doesn't mean as much as you would think in a TVT situation like this. At the end of the day, this TVT will very likely be decided by an air battle. Like one. So
yeah,
even if it looks like you have way more map and stuff, if he takes a way better air engagement and just wipes everything, oftentimes like a window opens up where you're like, okay, I can kill half the map before you have anything. So, yeah, even though it looks like Bjorn is winning, I still give Oliveira a fair chance. But look at that production. 10 Vikings. 10 Vikings. Dude, he's got 20 command centers right now. What a killer.
Yeah, another scan comes down here. And this is kind of the two sides snaking around. We are eventually going to run out of resources, by the way, if this game goes on. Kind of like a StarCraft 1 TVT. It's much less common to happen in a StarCraft 2 TVT, but it is possible. I don't see a real clear objective here. He's going to try to move in. Stimming coming down. Tanks are just enough in range. Yeah, I don't know that Bjorn wants to stay here. He's going to be driven back a little bit further along.
Yeah, Bjorn's still with a bit more of a mineral bank, but a bit less of a gas bank. I bet you there's geysers he hasn't taken, Tasteless. Actually, no, there's not.
Yeah,
he took them all. I was wondering about that because you did see that a few times already. Now you have me wondering about Bjorn. Now I'm paranoid. I'm like, Bjorn, are you taking your gases, bro?
There's a big counterattack coming in here, but it's going to be towards the planetary. This is a lot of fortification to try to break through. Kind of an undesirable location to hit. There are factories over here, which are pretty handy to get rid of. But the fact that Bjorn is no longer kind of caged behind his own defenses is interesting. This game's about 26 minutes long so far, and most of it's been Bjorn in control.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
But it does seem like, Oliveira has the patience that maybe Bjorn doesn't. Again, I got to emphasize this because it's going to be so important. 8K gas for Oliveira, 7K gas for Bjorn. So, I mean, it is crazy to think that there is that much more.
Look at Bjorn's mineral bank, too. Like,
yeah.
8.59?
This is some of the highest resources I've ever seen banked up in a TVT, literally ever.
It's getting up there. It's getting
wild.
Up there. Wow, look at that player minerals comparison last 2 minutes. Pretty steady growth there from Oliveira.
So Oliveira could probably ditch this base, and I think this is a smart move here for him to go up north.
Yeah.
Because that's a much more important base. Oh, and he's going to try to catch this. Wow, a lot of Vikings taking hits here.
Oh, my God.
Where is the rest of the army?
Dude, the auto turrets there making a huge, huge difference. And the Marines are underneath here for Oliveira. So Bjorn is actually taking this a little bit worse. He throws his own auto turrets, which will stop the chase. But now battlecruiser time. Okay. Battlecruiser time. What do you think, Tasteless?
I welcome it. I welcome this kind of game here. Let's see how it actually pans out, though. I mean, we got a lot of the air upgrades finishing up here. There's basically not an upgrade that hasn't been, researched in this game so far.
Oh, you're very close to right. +3 vehicle weapons has not been researched for Beyond.
He's going to try to go up to the top
What
right.
a silly goose.
What a noob.
Oh, no Liberator range for Beyond either, but we haven't seen him make any Liberators, so I guess that's okay.
So this is a big deal for Oliveira because this is the most resource important location on the map. And again, it's for Beyond, we kind of saw this, like 15 minutes ago, where he just sort of let this base go. Now, it's not like it's got a ton of resources there, but, if you send SCVs over here and take this, that's huge. Another set of turrets coming down here. So Beyond is going to basically bail on the top right and try to set up in a more central position, kind of like in a game of chess where if you control the center of the board, it's hard for your pieces to move around. The same is true here in this TVT.
Yeah. Beyond finally starts at +3 vehicle weapons. And look at this. Those are just some huge hits right there. And look at that. He flies his Ravens right over the army to drop down auto turrets, and he will clear everything pretty quickly there. So Oliveira actually does a pretty good job clearing that area. And, of course, he just cleared top right. This is still anyone's game. They are, basically tied in the resources lost. This, I have no idea, man. Oh, that's a big one right there. Beyond not happy with that.
Oh, man, that's a very Korean move, that kind of turn there, that cocking of the head to the side.
Yeah, that is very much so.
Yeah,
you're very unhappy with what has just happened. That's kind of the head move that a lot of Korean players give when they think the game just was lost.
Yeah. And so now we've got Oliveira in the top right and the bottom left. Again, both these guys, actually, I was about to say they both have a lot of money. No, they don't. Beyond has spent all his.
Yeah.
So Beyond maybe has one more Hail Mary play to make this work, but I think Oliveira is sweeping the map pretty nicely here.
Ooh, the armor shreds here, absolutely insane. Some great disables as well. Oliveira just with a slightly better push. And it did feel like Beyond was winning this most of the time, but so much of it comes down to one-ish air battles. Look at that. Beyond starts to win it, and he has to land his Vikings.
One Liberator would change his whole fight.
Dude, if he had a battle cruiser there, over. Now look at this. Oliveira is the one making some Thors. Now that he got a little bit behind on the air, that is a little trick you can do where it's you get a few Thor volleys on the big clump, and suddenly you've done thousands of damage.
Well, I think that the plan for Oliveira is to just dump mules over at the top right and try to steal the resources from there. Bottom left, gold is basically mined out. I mean, I guess we could have long distance mining there. He is going to get up here. Can we get the tanks over here in time? Where are they? There they are.
Ooh.
Super
tanks
close.
On both sides. He's setting his tanks up very far back.
But his tanks, they're going to be... Actually, I think Beyond's not in range yet. He might have pulled the trigger too soon there. Oliveira is also not kind of covering this planetary. This is kind of a funny position. Okay, he's going to try to inch in. Is there any way that Oliveira can try to fight this? I don't know.
No.
I think he wants to
I do not think he can right now move into that.
I think you're better off just taking the minerals out.
Yeah, if he wanted to fight this, he should have sieged his tanks slightly to the left so that you can't just siege the planet.
Oh. He's going to go for the disables. Here we go.
Okay, well, those are some good disables. Comes up with that Viking cloud as well. There's way more Vikings for Beyond, though. But look at that. See how he has to land because the two Thors come up? Dude, he actually had 10 more Vikings, and the Thors come up, but he lands, and now he's going to crush everything. Yeah. Because there's nothing left on the ground for Oliveira. Oh, my gosh. That was so funny.
Okay, so
I actually was like, is he landing because of that splash damage? But he had mostly killed the air Vikings, and he's like, now we kill the ground.
Yeah. I don't know why he also landed in that moment. That was odd to see Oliveira be like, all right, let's also be on the ground. He's like, I have less Vikings.
Yeah. Oliveira's down like 100 supply, man.
Yeah, he is hurting. Can we do a mineral check on the map overall for the bases that are left here? So there's some there. Not that much actually mining. That's irrelevant. Actually, yeah, there's a little bit more everywhere for Oliveira than I thought. Whereas for Beyond, I guess that's about to mine out. Obviously the 100 supply lead is huge. Oliveira might actually have a better fighting army, though. How many Vikings does Beyond have? There's 31 Vikings. So 31 Vikings doesn't really help if it's Marine Thor.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
right? So like I don't.
Yeah, but he has siege tanks as well, so you can't really. The Marine Thor can't do anything against siege tanks.
It's 13 siege tanks for Beyond versus 3 for Oliveira.
Yeah, I think Oliveira's pretty dead.
I think you might be right.
Was that long distance mule drop there for Beyond to steal minerals?
Yeah,
That's actually a very good move. Like
no, just take it out of the game. You know. Now Oliveira also has more resources at home. It almost seems like he treats his bases like they mine out before they do, which could make for a unique scenario where maybe he actually just ends up mining a little bit more and the game looks funny, but he wins long term, depending on how the next 1 to 2 big fights go. Dude, this is so sick. He just lands the mules.
Yeah.
Just like, doesn't even matter if they don't return it. It's like just take it away from him. Now, Bjorn's going to send his SCVs in here. He does actually have 48 SCVs, so it's probably good to get rid of this.
Yeah, it's actually really good to have your SCVs do things like attack random turrets. Not a planetary. That's not.
Yeah, that's.
But like if you start attacking the random turrets, it's like, oh man, I have to go deal with that. Like it's.
Yeah.
They're gaining their last bits of value. You know. See that? Their last bits of value. There they are. These SCVs really did their work for Bjorn.
Yeah. So he kills that off. Oliveira, by the way, had about 200 minerals. Beyond maxed out, 3,000 minerals. Yeah, Artosis, I think you could not have been more right. This game should end. But let's see how the next fight or two goes.
Yeah, the 8 battle cruisers are going to make this a little bit tricky. 8 3-3 BCs.
Yeah.
And 12 tanks. Like, if he... Okay, so
he could
if the
disable
tanks
all the
weren't
tanks.
there... Okay, let's say he disables all the tanks. Because he does have more Ravens. Okay, so that's the one thing Oliveira really has going for him. He has more Marines, more Ravens, and 4 Thors. Does his army actually win if he disables all the tanks? I don't think. I don't know. Let's...
Oh! He's moving in. Not the best angle here with some of these tanks in the background. These Marines starting to get shredded. Disables here on the battle cruisers.
Yeah, where are the siege tanks, really? Look at this. And dropping just unlimited auto turrets. Beyond going to lose everything there to auto turrets.
God.
He fought without his tanks. Where are his tanks?
There's some tanks up at the top. The Vikings are going to, some of them are going to land. All of them
They're all going to land. And now he's going to win on the ground.
It's
Vikings are the best ground.
Baby Thors versus real Thors.
Woo!
Fist pump there for Bjorn.
Man.
Got to be relieved that he actually won that game. What a hell of a game.
What a game. What a game. Over 30 minutes there. And kind of wild back and forth. So we see from Bjorn, right? He stayed in the early mid game for a really long time until Oliveira showed him, like, no, we are going late game. And then he actually outplayed Oliveira in the late game.
Yeah.
But it feels like he won't transition that by himself.
Well, you know what?
Someone has to force him to do it.
I do feel like occasionally we see Bjorn in a given tournament day kind of on a certain set of tracks and he's not able to change positions. He was able to do it in that last game. So that's really impressive to see. You know, he was able to just play defensive. Very cool. Guys, we're going to go to Game 4 in a second. We'll be right back as the series continues on. Welcome back, everybody. We're just catching some highlights here from Game 3, where Beyond managed to shut down the 3-0 from Oliveira. We're going to be going into Game 4 here shortly. It was a crazy Game 3, by the way, mining out nearly every resource on the map. Cool to see Beyond win in a very long, drawn-out, calculated late-game TVT. Obviously, we really know him as kind of the aggro, cutthroat playstyle that normally he built his name off of, showing a little bit of a bigger range.
Yeah. That was an absolutely wild last one. Love those types of late games. I wish Bjorn would voluntarily enter into them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because you can see he's really good at it. He's really, really good at it. It's just like a lot of times he kind of throws the game by making too many Marines, too many medevacs, and attacking nonstop and losing everything.
Yeah, it's nice to see him kind of stay back and not overextend, not feed into his opponent. A lot of the games with Beyond, it's either he gets a couple cuts in and the player does bleed to death, but other games, he runs into a wall a couple times and the game ends. So to see him identify the mistakes he was making versus Oliveira and play a very conservative game where he banks up the right resources, sets up the proper counters in an endgame scenario, and ultimately closes it out is very cool.
Well, I'm hoping that maybe he can do it again here against Oliveira and send us to that Game 5. Would love to see that between these two. Definitely that last game super, super entertaining. And hoping to another one. I could definitely go Tasteless for a couple more 30-minute games here.
I'd love to see that. Long, drawn-out series. Crazy late-game TVT. It's going to be hard to top what we had in Game 3 because that was so exceptional for endgame TVT. Historically, TVT is one of the longest matchups always, StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2, but it's hard to mine out the map TVT, so that's cool that we actually got that.
Yeah. I tell you, one funny thing, kind of watching them, I love these player shots that we have and the cameras during the games and stuff so we can catch their emotions. But the other thing I caught, Tasteless, is Beyond plays with a little tiny baby mouse pad.
He does. He's got a very small mouse pad, must have his mouse sensitivity to 1 where he can just flick his wrist, that alone. All right, we're going to go into Game 4 right now. In the top left, in the red, our player from China, he is Oliveira. And his opponent down here in the bottom right, winning Game 1. He has to win at least 2 more to move on here now. He is Beyond.
All right. Well, we'll see what these openers are going to look like. Oliveira kind of failing with the 2-Rex Reaper earlier. I don't think we're going to see that again from him. Just didn't quite have the control or the killer instinct for that one against Beyond. Beyond, on the other hand, wouldn't mind. I thought that his 2-Rex Reaper opener was all right. He dived in, killed a few SCVs and everything. Wasn't like perfect or anything, but I liked it.
Yeah, I think the 2-Rex Reaper opening didn't do Oliveira any favors. It did almost seem like, and I think we can all relate to this if we played in any competitive format, even the lower tier stuff. When you go 2-0 in a best of 5 and you think, I got this. What build can I use for Game 3 to win?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to win no matter what. I might as well bring out some stuff that I'm probably not even going to use for the rest of the tournament because that gives my players less for my sake. They can't research what else I have planned.
Yeah.
And then you get that reality check. No, he's not that bad. He can stop this. And then you get yourself into a late game situation like these other games. So not uncommon to see plays like that, but I imagine we're going to see Oliveira instead try to zero in on what went right in Game 1 and Game 2 early on and try to replicate it here in Game 4.
Yeah, well, both sides right now with the mirrored builds, Reaper, Factory, and Command Center all on the way here. And, yeah, I'll say, like, looking at the series so far, I like the mid-game of Oliveira a lot more than Bjorn's. Obviously, Bjorn just outplayed him as they went into the late game. It felt like Oliveira didn't identify that Bjorn was going super greed mode, just adding like 6 command centers at a time and, just making starports and not really doing much else. Maybe in a late game he can outplay Bjorn if he identifies that that's occurring, but we didn't see him really trying to figure that out either.
For now, it's going to be build up, tacking. Are we going to have the skirmishes we've had with these guys before? Little tit for tat, little back and forth. Reactors coming down on both sides, and we are going to have a Cyclone tech here. Both players going to Cyclone up. Can be used offensively. Of course, you can just keep it back at home to try to catch medevacs, shut down stuff like that.
Still those very mirrored builds.
Right.
Medevac coming out here for Beyond, no big surprise there, and Oliveira as well. So still continued forward. Reactor going to finish up there, get his Marines going again.
So, Game 3, we had crazy endgame TVT. And part of that was just the fact that, you know, Beyond was not overextending. I think Oliveira did a good job fighting out on the map and then reclaiming the top right, which is a little bit surprising. You know, Beyond had the top right twice in that game and lost it. If we get to that, it'll come down to Beyond probably also playing conservatively and not overextending again here. The medevacs are going to spot each other. And so Oliveira goes to chase this. So we got to watch the medevac unit specifically here for Beyond, because this could be intercepted. The Cyclone and the Marines are going to do a lot of damage. Oh, that's funny. I thought he was going to target the medevac and catch it with the infantry.
Yeah, I thought
inside.
so too.
I thought that was the trap he was laying, but I guess not. I think he might have misclicked with the Cyclone.
Do you think that maybe, like, he thought that Beyond was going to go to the north or something, and that's why he went in?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because I think your idea there is what I had as well. Where,
yeah.
Oh, he drops right outside and, like, maybe catches it on the way out, something like that. But either way, he deflects it, right? Very similar builds, but Beyond is actually the one that went into the tech lab and is going for Ravens, whereas there was a Liberator made first for Oliveira. I think he'll go into Ravens as well, though. Yeah, there it is.
Empty medevac headed southbound. And, I mean, that's kind of funny to see that moving there. You think he wants to just have kind of a confusing moment where maybe Beyond thinks he's getting dropped when he's not? Or is he going to feed that with some units later on?
No, I think it's just he might do a little bit of scouting, but yeah, maybe fake him out a little bit as well. Little drop comes into the main base here from Beyond. Going to pick off a few SCVs, but as these Cyclones come up, he is going to have to pull out.
Okay, so he just pokes in here. He actually sees what he's looking for. He sees that third command center. This is way more valuable than, you know, look, it did pull some of the units back in here. So now he's able to then do this Liberator attack. He takes out 4 SCVs, not bad at all.
Yeah, that was a good idea, right? The medevac he just uses a slight, distraction so that he could get in and get a little bit of damage. Looks like he did end up killing off a medevac from Beyond, though. Actually, I don't think we caught that earlier, but anyways, yeah, right now both sides producing pretty heavily out of their starports. Double Liberator here for Beyond. That's like kind of interesting to see early on. I think that he's going to want to utilize those in a push.
Double eBay about to finish as the push is coming. Not necessarily wrong, but it could be a moment where if he loses this, he's going to have lost all the opportunities to have these units stronger and more upgraded. Beyond could also be faking, by the way. He could be doing a little bit of footsies here on the map and then back away.
I think if you make 2 Liberators here, you're going to do the push. Because he's got the 2 Ravens, he's got 2 tanks, he's going to have 2 Liberators. So it's like, okay, you know, we have the possibility of disables, we have the possibility of just Liberator pushing back siege tanks. It actually looks pretty good for Beyond. I actually kind of like this push.
Disable on the first tank.
Yeah, he disables, but you can reverse disable.
Well, I guess he's not going to do that. So there's a big chance this tank is just going to be picked off.
Well, he did have a third siege tank come up as well.
He does take the add-on out. That's really annoying. That does take a long time to make. Dude, Oliveira's just pushing this.
Yeah. Okay, now he sets up the Liberators. There you go. This is what we were kind of like waiting for with these Liberators. And look, he is going to get the kills, too. He kills both of those and then throws down a couple auto turrets.
Not so sure about this. He's going to try to come down here towards the bunker. I guess the question is Beyond going to get in here and do anything?
Well, Beyond is gaining an advantage during this.
Yeah, I guess he's got his third base up. He's mining from that.
Yeah. He's actually doing a great job multitasking. Like, he's lost a few units here and there. As long as he doesn't throw away the army he has over here right now, I think he's going to be completely fine. Like, I think this was definitely a net positive as long as he doesn't lose all these units. Oh, look at this. Sets up a Liberator in the main base while pushing the natural. Dude, Beyond is way outplaying Oliveira.
Yeah, this is pretty nasty, but a big stim comes down here. He can take out all of the tanks, everything in this position. Is there going to be counterplay here from Oliveira?
Yeah, there's got to be. He has to go across the map right now. He has to try to find some additional damage. And this was the only thing I was kind of worried for Beyond, because it feels like everything else he was ahead on. And then he just kind of overstayed his welcome. I feel like once you set up that Liberator, you might want to think about going home. But you know what? Looking at what he has at home, I think he'll still hold on. And look at this, sets up the Liberator again. Yeah, I think he just holds on here straight up too.
Yeah, he's not going to get anything done over there. The Liberator's going to stay just here, just in range where you can one-shot Marines. Oliveira kind of losing a lot here.
Yeah.
Is this tank going to go in range? What?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm watching a computer play.
Yeah. You know, stamina is going to be essential for the players playing today. And sometimes you do see players who look like they're doing fine, and then their battery runs out, right? So, yeah, Oliveira, I guess, looking a little sloppy, a little clunky here in his play as we're getting to the 10-minute marker shortly in Game 4.
Yeah, Beyond is really coming online. You know, those first 2 games were a little bit of a disaster for him, right? Just like sacrificing units over and over. Here it feels like, okay, he's applying pressure. He has some smart moves set up. He has some smart unit compositions. Taking the third base behind. He's not overcommitting. Like, look, he's sending smaller amounts on the map, keeping an army at home, splitting up some units. I really like the way that Beyond is approaching this right now. But Oliveira, like, he's made a few mistakes. He's taken a little bit of damage this game so far. His third base, you know, maybe a little bit slower and getting saturated. But now he's sitting here. He's getting up to 4 base. He's kind of zoning everything out. You know, sometimes you see a supply difference like this, 30, 40 supply, but it doesn't necessarily just translate into a win, right? You have your tanks in the right position, you have your Ravens there, and it's going to be very hard to be broken in TBT.
So Beyond's, oh my God, big push in here. The tanks are going to siege up in the back. I think Oliveira has to back up. Too many Marines in the way to actually stop that push. Scans come down here now. A little counterattack from Beyond. Able to move in to kill off these Marines. Might be able to get this Cyclone that's injured here in the back. I mean, Beyond's looking really good, Artosis. I feel like Oliveira's barely keeping up. That little contain early on in that third base expand, and the fact that, you know, Beyond got damage off while not overextending.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference that we're seeing from the first couple games. Like, if this was if he was in the mode he was in the first couple games, he would load up his whole army into medevacs and just boost it across the map right now. You know, that's like one of the big moves that was losing him those games.
Yeah,
instead he's like set up and he's actually scanning. He's figuring out where to go. It feels like he found his stride.
It definitely feels like he recalibrated nicely.
Yeah. This is the Beyond you want to see, where you're like, okay, this guy has a real chance at making top 4 here.
Okay, tanks and Marines moving up now. And we got a stim coming in. Oh, he draws him out, though. Beyond with great positional play. This is what he's so good at over here. He's going to come in. He's hitting that command center. The tanks in the back are going to siege up, but how safe is this position realistically here for Oliveira?
Well, Beyond actually gets a much better siege location. He is going to stim up once again, that additional stim, really bringing his Marines down on the health. But he's showing the orbital right now, and that's a huge, huge deal, right? Like, the siege tanks have a hard time moving up into position, and now, with that attack going on, drops off 3 medevacs of units in the main base. No Vikings, no turrets there to catch him. He's going to target down a starport. That's kind of an interesting choice.
I think he tried to find the highest value thing he could, and it's not going to pay off.
Well, that's the worst case scenario right there. It gets absolutely nothing.
Yep, he's going to drop on these tanks, and this is way more important. Killing off these tanks is going to make this entire position impossible to cover. Kind of shockingly, he only gets 1.
Yeah.
The damage was distributed very evenly. Regardless of some of the blunders, I think, in the attack itself here from Beyond, I think he's still coming out ahead.
Yeah. He's expanded twice during this, by the way. Doesn't have necessarily SCVs at both those bases, but getting them up. His supply up by a good 30 at the moment. Gonna have to back up against these Liberators a little bit. Now, with this type of tempo advantage, I know that we're very high in supply, and I was a little bit crucial about the fact that he was staying Marine tank medevac at a similar minute in the previous game. But this is a very different looking game, right? There's been a lot of back and forth. Right now, there's no like super held positions on either side. So in this case, I feel like Bjorn is playing this really, really nicely. It's not like Oliveira has everything sewn up. It's not like he's sitting here making mass siege tank Viking to make sure his 4 base aren't going to be broken. He has been taking damage left and right, right? Everything's kind of on fire a little bit right now. So there's still like a window here for Bjorn to stay on this unit comp and get great damage done.
We've got a nice push over here. Bjorn got to come in once more, and I mean, the tanks just aren't there.
Wow.
GG.
Nice.
Much more decisive game from Bjorn. Bjorn kind of going back to his roots there. It was the perfect Bjorn. Look, he had the aggro. He was able to get in his opponent's face, but he didn't overextend. He didn't dive too deep. He didn't go in there to the point where there was just nothing that he could do to be punished. Mm-hmm. And that's all you need.
Yeah. No, I think that this was beautifully played by Bjorn. Beautifully, beautifully played. It really feels like he turned a corner somewhere in Game 3, where like suddenly he's doing just exactly what needs to be done. But yeah, some very, very good moves. Gets a great siege position here that we're looking at. Oliveira having a very hard time holding on to that spot. But yeah, this is like, if you keep playing like this type of play where it's like, okay, maybe we mix it up a little bit in the early game. Bjorn has very good micro, good killer instinct and stuff. Maybe gets a little bit of damage, or maybe stalls you out so that he can get his 3rd base up, and then he pulls back, scans around a little bit, scouts around a little bit, doesn't suicide 4 medevacs in your main base randomly, right? And instead sets up the next strong attack. That type of play, that's the type of play where you're like, okay, we could have a real match against Maru as well, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Oliveira, it's got to be a little bit scary here.
Yeah.
It looked like he was going to walk out of this with a really fast 3-0.
Yeah.
It looked like it was going to be a series that, he was going to once again assert dominance as one of the best TVTers in the whole world. But Bjorn is not letting him up just yet. In fact, Bjorn here with the comeback. If we don't see Oliveira turn this around, we're going to have the reverse clean sweep.
Yeah, that would be a big one for Bjorn, especially considering he was knocked into this loser's bracket by Oliveira earlier on.
That's right. Introducing our players now in the final match between these two. In the top left in the red, he is Oliveira. And his opponent down here in the bottom left in the blue, he is Bjorn. In what's turned out to be a pretty exhausting series with these two guys.
It really has been. A big variety of games as well. So we'll see if we're going to have more action-packed game here in game number 5 on Amphion. I personally would love to see another late game, right, where it just goes into like mass starport, mass command center. I know that a lot of people look at TVT and say, ew, it's so long, it's so hard to break the positions. That's the beauty of it. That's real strategy.
That's when Artosis starts licking his lips.
That is.
Yes. Everybody's killing each other.
Here's a funny thing I think
yeah.
exists about StarCraft. I've mentioned this a few times before, where I think that people get into StarCraft thinking it's a strategy game, but it's actually more of a real-time game than it is strategy. It's more about, like, do these things quickly. But late game TVT slows it down into a real strategy game. It's more turn-based and stuff, right? Like, the slower air and mech units are moving in this position, so you move in that position, and it just kind of becomes like, in my opinion, late game TVT is the most strategic you can get in StarCraft.
It's really fun. It's very action-packed, and that's exactly what Game 3 was for us back there. I think, Bjorn played a pretty perfect mid-game TVT and really never let the late game ever develop there for Oliveira. Mm-hmm. Very rare to see, 2 wins on one side, then 2 on the other. Oliveira needs to take what he's learned in the last 2 losses and build that into his play so he can recover here in the final game. I mean, Bjorn, I think he had mistakes that he made versus Oliveira, but he also just made mistakes on his own.
Yeah.
I think Bjorn makes more mistakes that hurt himself than any other pro gamer I can think of.
You might be right about that, actually. That's I never thought of it like that.
But into stuff where I'm like, you don't have to do that at all.
I think they're called like unforced errors, right? Yeah. Where it's like, yeah, this was a mistake, and it's not because your opponent was doing something. There were turrets there, and you flew into them.
Right, yeah. I mean, we had games here today.
Yeah.
By the way, Oliveira with the Reaper inside the base. The Hellions a ways off, so he's going to start to damage these SCVs.
This is pretty good. This is pretty good. Now, there is some damage being dealt, which looks good for Oliveira. And he's slowed that command center a little bit, and looks like he might slow it just a little bit more. But the command center is quite a bit faster for Bjorn, so he can recover some of these losses because of that.
So he gets his kills, he then leaves. That Reaper's going to heal up. You can hear the keyboard here of Oliveira in this shot.
He's got a beautiful keyboard.
A lot of the pro gamers are going with smaller and smaller keyboards. Some of them even like cut in half. I think only going up to the 6 key on the number pad.
That's right. That's right. I think that's the smartest layout for StarCraft 2.
I agree.
And it should be a smaller keyboard. Like, first off, if you have a number pad, I mean, you're like a caveman at that point.
Yeah, you don't use a number pad in this game. Any other games you do, this one you don't. By the way, Oliveira going to move in here now and nukes everything.
Yeah.
Reaper from earlier and 2 Hellions coming in. There's going to be a Cyclone here to try to defend, and of course the Hellion and Reaper can't really fight this, but they can play keep away.
Yeah, this Cyclones, obviously Oliveira has been a little bit more aggressive with this opener. He did get that later command center, but that actually has paid off for him now because he's gotten enough damage. Now, the counter to that is that Bjorn's tech is a little bit faster, even if the SCV count has gone to Oliveira slightly. Now, Oliveira runs in again with the 2 Hellion 3 Reaper combo that we've seen many times in TVT, although getting there in a slightly different direction here for Oliveira. And Bjorn will hold that off, but I got to tell you, right now in this game so far, Oliveira has been pretty much in charge.
Yeah, he's in a good position. He's staying healthy. I like the pokes in. I think Bjorn's doing a good job of following that road to recovery here. Is he going to have his own counterattack? It's funny how much of a back and forth the TVT can be, just depending on the order in which you get your units, and then if they attack you, what you kill off, which will allow you to then maybe have some counterplay.
All right, so taking a look at this game right now, Medevac finishes up there for Bjorn as he starts a Liberator. And we are going to have him come across the map here and try to get something done. Has the double Cyclone. Yeah, can't quite do anything right there. Way too many units to deal with. Right now, Oliveira is up actually a fair amount of SCVs. 6 SCV lead.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, at 5 minutes, that's pretty darn good.
No, that's a lot, and he's only going to get more from here. This map, we should note, you can push through the center left here and kind of make your own path there. Some Cyclones are going to come up here. He is going to target this Viking. Can he? Oh,
well,
man.
That wasn't good.
That was the worst possible outcome. He put both the Cyclones in the Viking right as it was killed off. So I'm starting to get game 1 and 2 Bjorn vibes, Artosis.
Falling into old habits. Like, his opponent is sitting there turtled on 2 base, and Bjorn's like, I'm going to get damage done.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they were literally just sitting there on 2 base, you're not. Or very likely not going to.
What is happening here? Is this a bad rally?
Oh, I think it might be.
Dude.
Oh, no, that I believe that was actually in the medevac, and then he wanted to bring only Marines, and so he tried to send it home, but it gets caught. So a little unlucky there from Bjorn, I'd say.
Meanwhile, Oliveira with another drop over here, going to be killing off a lot of SCVs, only making the economic situation even worse right now for Bjorn. Down to 7, 8, 9. Oh, man, it's going to go all the way up to 10. He hasn't even lost everything yet. Artosis is so bad.
Oh, getting worse.
He's attacking the wrong thing. He was hitting the Cyclone when he should have shot the Viking.
But in the same time, we do have that harassment drop that you can see in that little picture-in-picture where the Marines that Bjorn had sent out that made him lose the tank are getting some good counter damage. But up comes a push from Oliveira, and this is going to put him, I think, up over the top as far as damage goes. It looks like these little sets of scuffles might go to Oliveira because of this push at the natural, but Bjorn actually killed more SCVs there than Oliveira did.
Yeah, he's even landing the Vikings. He just has to get that tank and then kite it back. We may be to the point of no return here.
Yeah.
Sometimes TVT, it could be hectic enough. You do end up with this kind of 2 base versus 2 base. Bjorn biting his lip, knowing in these last few moments he has to make this work or he is out in this best of 5.
Oh, he's so close to clearing it, and then Oliveira lands Vikings to kill the landed Vikings. GG! Oliveira so happy with himself to advance to play against Maru for that 2nd place spot. He takes out Bjorn 3-2 for the 2nd time in this tournament.